So you just picked up a lift foil. That's awesome. You've got it unboxed. Now what? Well, we're gonna show you how to set this thing up. Quick and easy, only the stuff you need to know. So let's get into it. So this is my preferred way to set up the lift eFoil. Doesn't mean it's the only way, but it's just the way that I've started doing it after tearing mine down and putting it together a bunch of times. So I like to set it up on the bag just to give it some protection, obviously. And the first thing we're gonna do is grab our propulsion and mast unit. So this is the integrated motor, propeller, and mast all together in one guy. And then while I'm in here, I'm also gonna grab all of our mounting hardware that we're gonna need. So that's pretty much everything I need out of here right now. So we'll get that, put this aside, out of the way. And so the first thing we're gonna do is find your bag that has the smaller panhead screws in here. That's what we're gonna need to mount the mast. Set the other ones aside here. And I'm gonna go ahead and open up the latches, half-turn latches, to get my access door open. Just like that. And now the next thing I'm gonna do this, see the best way I can show is to flip the board up towards the camera and just stay right there. So we're gonna grab our propulsion unit. It's got our integrated 3-phase high voltage connectors and our coolant line built in. And we'll just feed these through the opening in the board. Not super important how they go in there just yet. There's no wrong way to do that. Tip the board up on its side to show how to do this, but definitely easier when you're doing this to just flip it all the way over so it's laying on its top. That'll make life a lot easier for you. And like I said, you can make up all your connections on the inside once you're done with that. So now we just need to get the mast assembly to seat into the cutout in the board, the opening in the board. And especially on a new board like this, that can be a little bit tricky. Take a little bit of wiggling to get that going. I'm gonna go ahead and pop in my hardware here just to get this started. And I'm just gonna start it. I'm not gonna tighten it all the way up. Obviously being careful not to cross thread anything. A little persuasion here. Perfect, and then I just like to, I'm not gonna tighten these all the way up. As I go around, I'll just get them snug. And one tip, if you do leave your board set up a lot, you're not tearing it down each ride, make sure you check these every time you ride, just because vibration going through wakes and wind chop and stuff, these can loosen up. So now I've got them tightened or snug, I'll go around and just give them each a little more torque. I've never seen a torque spec published by Lift on this, so I just get them snug. Don't have to go crazy, but they're going into inserts in the board, so as long as you're not putting a cheater bar on there, you should be fine. So, all right, now roll this thing over here, and I'm gonna try and just take it off the edge of the table we're set up on. So now we're inside the enclosure, and we can take a look at what we've got going on here. So we've got 4 connections that come up out of the mast into the internal cavity. First one's really easy. This is a coolant line, brings water up from the propulsion unit, circulates it through the power control module, and then sends it back out down through a discharge port in the board right here. So this is a super easy connection. It just mates together, push it till it clicks, make sure it's seated fully, and that's all you gotta do. So nothing to that one. In terms of your power connections, so you've got these 3 different cables. The way they feed into the connections on the power control unit is basically closest to furthest. So this guy is gonna bend, make a nice smooth bend and seat in, and then this one's gonna match up right next to it, and final one is gonna go in there. So you should have nice smooth bends, and they're color coded, so it's green, yellow, and then red. So yeah, that basically completes the attachment of the mast and propulsion unit to the board, connection of the power and the water for cooling. Last thing we would do is pop our battery in if we're actually gonna set it up to go ride. And the battery just locks in place and is held in with this quarter turn lock here. And then this is gonna go into your power port on the battery, lock in place. And then your final connection is your integrated diagnostics for the battery itself. So that's this third connector here that goes into the diagnostic port on the battery. When that's done, you're done inside here until you're ready to go ride and you actually need to turn it on. We can go ahead and close this up, lock it down, and then we'll just flip the board over. And now we're ready to complete the assembly of our front and rear wings to form the connected fuselage, and then that's gonna mount onto the bottom of the mast. So here's where we're gonna need our other hardware pack that we grabbed. There are two different size Allen keys for the hardware. So the mast connection takes the larger size, and then the wing assembly and connection takes the smaller size. So we'll go ahead and open up this guy, pull our front wing out, set it right here. So this is a one-time thing. You won't typically be pulling this apart unless you're really swapping to a different wing or a different stabilizer. So this shouldn't be something that you have to deal with all that often. So I'll flip this over, and so this just slots together. It's a tapered connection, so it does take a little bit of work to get this to line up. You can see the holes are not quite aligned yet. Drive it in a little bit further. Obviously you want to be super careful on the leading and trailing edges. You don't want to pound on it or anything like that. That would be a disaster. So get that snugged up, and then we can fit our machine screws in here. Again, we're going to be careful. We don't want to cross thread anything. This is threading into an integrated insert that's molded in place on this carbon part. So if it's not lined up right, you can totally cross thread that. We want to be a little bit careful not to do that. I definitely don't recommend using power tools for this. It's just not worth the risk to strip out one of those inserts and have to deal with that. So just take your time and wait to tighten that up fully. So now this one should be a bit easier to draw in. Double check this and make sure I'm not cross-threading it. No reason to force it if it's not going in smoothly. Take your time. And that's just the thread of the screw on the edge of the carbon. That's normal. All right. So now we've got these both threaded, we can go ahead and torque them. Again, never seen a torque spec on this. Just kind of snug is what we're going for. That's good there. All right, so now we've got that connection made up, and you see on the fuselage, we've got our connector for our mast. also is tapered connection, so that's gonna snug up really well. We'll get our hardware here for this connection. And these just drop in from the bottom here. Same thing over here, and just like before, I'm gonna wait to torque these down until I have them both threaded. Can apply torque equally. And snug on that one. Perfect, so we have finished the assembly. Put some batteries in your hand controller. Make sure your main battery pack is charged up. You're ready to go rip. Have fun on your lift.